If you look at all of the crises that we've seen in these last few months since President Biden took office, it's been one thing after the other that have been self-imposed, self-created. On day one, President Biden killed the Keystone Pipeline, destroyed thousands of American jobs, and then turns around weeks later and approves a Russian pipeline. So he kills jobs in America and Canada and creates jobs in Russia, weakens America's energy security. It's one of the reasons that we're seeing dramatic price increases at the pump that families are paying. Then you look at what he did at the border. Day one, stops completion of the wall that President Trump was building that was actually working, gets rid of the Remain in Mexico policy, which had stopped the flow of illegals coming into our country by the thousands. And President Trump had already worked out negotiations with the Northern Triangle countries. President Biden got rid of all of those, and now we're seeing a massive crisis, an uncontrolled crisis at our southern border. And it's important for a number of reasons, but when you think about the national security implications, after the debacle of President Biden's actions over in Afghanistan, he turned over a country to a terrorist organization. And as a terrorist organization now has not only a training ground, but a country that they're in charge of with over $85 billion of the world's most technologically advanced military equipment, according to reports, which, by the way, the Biden administration has not refuted. And you see the list of some of the things that President Biden gave to a terrorist organization, from C-130s to night vision goggles to some of the most advanced military equipment. Then you go and look at the fact that we've actually captured people on the terrorist watch list coming across our southern border. These aren't just people coming from Central and South American countries. It's people coming from European, Asian countries, Middle Eastern countries. How many more terrorists are going to be trying to come across our open southern border until President Biden steps up and does his job at keeping Americans safe? He's failed to do it. And so what is his answer this week and next week? As you see an inflation crisis, that's probably the biggest concern most Americans are expressing today, that they're paying more money for everything they're buying, from gasoline to food at the grocery store, waiting months to get a microwave oven if they're trying to upgrade their kitchen. He's now going to bring a massive tax hike bill, a $5 trillion tax and spend bill, all masquerading as an infrastructure bill. People get that will only increase inflation even more. And who's going to get hit the hardest? It's going to be hardworking families. It's going to be the lower income families. You know, we had a number of markups. 12 different committees last week had this package of bills come before the committee, over 160 hours of debate. Probably close to 100 amendments brought forward to try to get rid of these taxes that'll hurt families. One of them was the natural gas tax. President Biden is trying to raise over $60 billion of new taxes on natural gas. Now, I know during the campaign he promised people that if they made under $400,000, they wouldn't pay a dime in new taxes. The only problem is President Biden breaks that promise to the American people with this bill, because anybody that heats their home in the winter or cools their home in the summer with natural gas is going to pay more. Conservative estimates say over 12% increase in people's household electricity bills because of President Biden's new tax increase on natural gas. And when we tried to take that out and pointed out to Democrats that it would break President Biden's promise, they voted on a party line vote to keep that tax there, to keep taxing families with this new tax. And there's a whole lot of other taxes that low-income families will pay as well. By the way, we tried to exempt hospitals from the tax, because you know what? Hospitals will now have to pay more, which means they're going to lead to higher health care costs. President Biden also promised he wouldn't raise health care costs. That promise will be broken too. What we see is a failure of leadership and a series of broken promises. And this week, not only are they going to start that process of raising taxes that hardworking families will pay, in fact, many people making less than $100,000 a year will pay more in new taxes under this Biden tax increase plan, but it will absolutely boost inflation even higher. Inflation, by the way, which is the biggest new tax on low-income families, that is already dramatically higher, 20–30% higher for families, is going to get even higher if the federal government taxes and spends another $5 trillion. These are insurmountable debts that families cannot afford and shouldn't have to afford. And we on the Republican side are continue to stand up for working families and fight against these radical policies. not only on the tax and spend side, not only trying to get our southern border under control, but to defend innocent life, which this administration, as they try to push abortion on demand, as Stephanie Bice just talked about, are trying to appease the most radical, far-left elements of their base instead of working for all of the American people. Again, one more broken promise by President Biden. He said he'd work with everybody, those who voted with him and those who voted against him. He's yet to follow through on that promise. So as we look at all these broken promises, we're going to continue fighting for those hardworking families on the Republican side.